I'm Sabrina Zainal, and this is Nightline, the top stories. World leaders begin arriving in KL ahead of Monumental Summit. Also, 12-year-old boy among 31 arrested in crackdown against child porn. Good morning. We begin the bulletin with this story. ASEAN on Friday launched 3 initiatives on inclusivity and sustainability, forming Malaysia's legacy for its 2025 chairmanship and serving ASEAN and its member states well into the future. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan said the initiatives, each in their own way, prepared ASEAN for a changing world and affirmed the region's collective determination to shape a future that is both inclusive and sustainable. The first initiative is the ASEAN Center of Excellence for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSMEs, and Green Transition, which embodies the principle that economic transformation must begin at the grassroots. Muhammad said enabling all businesses to participate in the green transition will not only protect livelihoods but also prepare ASEAN's economy for the realities of a low-carbon future.
Across the region, micro, small and medium enterprises are the backbone of our economies. They employ the majority of our workforce and drive local innovation. Through MEGA, these MSMEs will gain access to an education and training hub that will facilitate their transition to green, sustainable business models.
On the second initiative, the ASEAN Ahead ASEAN Science, Technology and Innovation Ecosystem Foresight 2035 report, Muhammad said the report identifies the trends, disruptions and opportunities that will define science, technology and innovation in the next decade. Meanwhile, the third initiative, the book ASEAN in 2025, Shaping an Inclusive and Sustainable Future, stands as both a reflection and a legacy. With contributions from more than 30 of the region's leading thinkers, the book gathers ideas spanning geopolitics, sustainability, trade, economics, and technology. Earlier, ASEAN foreign ministers also held an extended informal consultation on the 5-point consensus on Myanmar. Muhammad said the regional bloc remains firm that any resolution to the crisis must be guided by the agreed framework.
Mesti melalui 5-point consensus. 5-point consensus ni pun tak susah sangat, ya. Kerana apa yang kita pula hendak ialah supaya dia adakan dialog, membenarkan bantuan kemanusiaan sampai dan macam-macam lagi dan kembali kepada dialog dengan semua pihak.
The bloc reiterated its call for the upcoming elections in Myanmar to be conducted in a fair, transparent and inclusive manner. The meeting also raised concerns over the growing cross-border crime in the region, which continues to threaten regional security and stability. Now, Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Datuk Seri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz said Malaysia is confident of completing all 18 priority economic deliverables, or PEDs, set for this year under its ASEAN chairmanship. So far, 7 PEDs have been fully completed, with another 5 expected to be delivered during the ASEAN summit.
We are encouraged by this strong progress and remain confident that the 6 remaining PEDs will be successfully delivered by end of this year, or by end of 2025.
The report on the deliverables will be presented to ASEAN leaders this Sunday. Malaysia's leadership in driving the PEDs is seen as pivotal in strengthening regional economic integration in line with ASEAN's goal of building a cohesive and resilient ASEAN economic community. The arrival of foreign ministers from ASEAN member states and dialogue partner countries will continue over the next few days, with heads of state and government expected to arrive shortly before the summit begins this weekend. Among those seen arriving at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport on Friday was Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and his spouse, Rosangela Lula da Silva. The special aircraft carrying the president and his delegation landed at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, KLIA, at about 3:30 p.m. and was welcomed upon arrival by Plantation and Commodities Minister Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani. Also arriving on Friday afternoon was Timor-Leste Prime Minister Xanana Gusmao. The event will also see Timor-Leste's formal accession as ASEAN's 11th member on October 26th. Other world leaders expected at the summit include U.S. President Donald Trump, Chinese Premier Li Qiang, European Council President Antonio Costa, and Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. In the meantime, security around the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre has been further enhanced ahead of the arrival of world leaders for the 47th ASEAN Summit and related summits, as well as a ministerial meeting scheduled in the coming days. Also in preparation for the upcoming meet, the ASEAN Senior Officials Meeting and the ASEAN Economic Community Council meeting were carried out on Friday. Meanwhile, a full rehearsal for delegates held on Friday morning proceeded smoothly. Police personnel have been stationed at every entrance and access point leading into the KLCC area. Final preparations are also underway, involving technical crews and officers from various ministries and government agencies to ensure that the summit runs seamlessly. At the same time, a coalition of 16 non-governmental organizations has voiced full support for the Prime Minister's firm stance on the Palestine issue ahead of his meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump at the 47th ASEAN Summit this weekend. Their support was one of 5 key points outlined in a memorandum submitted to the Prime Minister in Putrajaya on Friday by NGO representative and president of the Muslim Youth Movement of Malaysia, Ahmad Fahmi Muhammad Samsudin. The group urged the government to maintain Malaysia's role as a regional hub for peace and dialogue and to continue voicing the people's solidarity with Gaza while rejecting any policy that perpetuates injustice against its people. The memorandum also expressed strong backing for Malaysia's position and initiatives to leverage ASEAN-US cooperation during the summit. Meanwhile, in a post on social media, the Prime Minister expressed appreciation for their solidarity, saying it reflects Malaysia's commitment to justice and humanity on the global stage. Authorities have crippled an online child sexual exploitation ring with the arrest of 31 men and the seizure of close to 1 million digital files related to child sexual abuse. Inspector General of Police, Datuk Sri Muhammad Khalid Ismail, said those apprehended included teachers and engineers, with one teenager revealing that he raked in some 76,000 ringgit within the first 9 months of this year from distributing the material online. The operation, carried out between September 22nd and September 30th, spanned 37 locations nationwide with support from the Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission. Khalid said all those arrested were males, with the youngest aged 12 and the oldest 71. They comprised teachers, engineers, graphic designers and students, including those from higher learning institutions, as well as unemployed individuals.
Penglibatan golongan remaja iaitu pelajar sekolah dan penuntut IPT sebagai pelaku antara umur 17 hingga 21 tahun. Salah satu tangkapan berusia 17 tahun telah mencatat aliran keuangan untuk 9 bulan pertama 2025 dengan jumlah RM76,000. Ini menunjukkan peralihan tahap moral yang membimbangkan.
The suspects were found to have used social media platforms to download and share the digital files, offering paid access to child sexual abuse material through e-wallet transactions and banking QR codes. A total of 82 digital devices, including computers, mobile phones, modems, and storage drives, were seized during the operation. So far, 29 investigation papers have been opened under various legal provisions. Of the 31 suspects, 17 have been charged in court, while 14 have been released on police bail. Meanwhile, the updated special guidelines for handling sexual crimes against children was launched on Friday, focusing on 4 main components. In updating the document, several aspects were reviewed to ensure practices are aligned with current challenges, the increase in new cases, and recent legal developments.
Pertama, pelapor dan siasatan awal beretika yang meminimumkan trauma terhadap mangsa. Kedua, prosedur mahkamah mesra kanak-kanak termasuk penggunaan rakaman video dan pautan langsung live link. Ketiga, pelantikan penyokong saksi atau pendampingan guaman bagi membantu mangsa. Dan yang keempat, sokongan psikososial dan pemulihan pasca perbicaraan yang berterusan.
The document also outlines regular training for all relevant parties, such as investigating officers, prosecutors, judges, welfare officers, and health professionals, to ensure implementation in line with the spirit of child protection. Although the guidelines are not yet legally binding, they serve as an important foundation for harmonizing best practices across agencies and pave the way for future gazettement as mandatory procedures. Now, state police chiefs have been directed to intensify patrols around schools to ensure the safety of students and educators. Inspector General of Police, Datuk Sri Muhammad Khalid Ismail, said the order covers regular patrols by intelligence units and special monitoring teams.
Jika perlu, sampai pihak sekolah itu perlu untuk masuk ke kawasan sekolah untuk melihat keselamatan, mungkin dalam masa 1 hingga 5 minit dengan kereta ronda dan sebagainya, kita akan laksanakan, insyaAllah.
Khalid added that there are over 9,000 schools nationwide, each with a school liaison officer who serves as the link between the schools and the police. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim in the Dewan Rakyat on Thursday reaffirmed the government's decision to maintain police presence in schools amid a rise in bullying abuse and other criminal cases. Malacca has become one of the first states to act on the directive, with State Police Chief Datuk Zulkhairi Mukhtar conducting spot checks at several schools on Thursday. Moving on now, authorities continue to monitor rising river levels in several parts of Perak, Kedah and Pulau Pinang as multiple stations recorded danger level readings as of 10 p.m. on Friday. The number of flood victims has also surged, with 4,252 people now housed in temporary relief centres. In Perak, 2,496 victims from 857 families have been evacuated, up from just over 2,000 early on Friday. The districts of Kerian and Perak Tengah are the latest to be affected, bringing the total to 24 active relief centres across the state. Now, over in Kedah, the number of evacuees has jumped to 1,007, with 4 new relief centres opened in Kulim, bringing the total to 7. In Kuala Muda, 52 victims remain at one centre. Meanwhile, in Pulau Pinang, 8 relief centres have been activated, sheltering 749 victims across Seberang Perai Utara, Seberang Perai Tengah and Barat Daya districts. Overall, flood risks remain high in low-lying areas across the northern region, with continuous rainfall expected over the next 24 hours. In the meantime, all 2025 Sijo Pelajaran Malaysia candidates affected by floods are urged to immediately inform their schools or state education departments. In a statement on Friday, the Education Ministry said students can also contact the Examination Board Operations Room or state education departments nationwide for assistance. The ministry is working closely with relevant agencies to ensure the smooth management and conduct of the 2025 SPM examinations. The exam is scheduled to run from November 3rd to December 23rd, with the Bahasa Melayu speaking tests set between November 3rd and 6th.
Menyoroti peranan Malaysia di bawah kepengurusian ASEAN 2025 dalam memperkukuh ekonomi serantau.
Apakah manfaat ASEAN kepada seluruh rakyat Malaysia dan pengusaha industri tempatan? Bersama tetamu jemputan Datuk Seri Tengku Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz, Menteri Pelaburan, Perdagangan dan Industri. Soal Rakyat, Sabtu 25 Oktober, jam 5.30 petang, hanya di TV3.
Malaysia's economy is expected to record a more moderate growth next year. This follows a 0.5% decline in the country's leading index, IPN, to 113.7 points in August, indicating slower economic momentum ahead. According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, the drop was mainly due to weaker imports of base and non-ferrous metals. The IPN also provides early signals of turning points in the business cycle and short-term economic trends. Meanwhile, the coincident index, which measures current economic conditions, rose 2.1%, driven by higher employees' provident fund (EPF) contributions, in line with a stronger labour market and economic activity. The Statistics Department said the economy remains stable, supported by domestic demand despite a challenging global environment. One killed in Sabah road crash. The details after this breather.
Oktober. O-nya untuk apa? O untuk orang yang tersayang.
Sayang, bawa saya jalan-jalan.
Saya appreciate apa yang awak buat. Tapi awak tak boleh pressure saya.
O untuk orang yang terpilih.
Ayah tetap tak benarkan kau jadi penyanyi.
Dosa you, dosa I.
Sejak bila you boleh jadi alim sangat ni?
O untuk oh ya, jangan lupa cereka Ahad setiap Ahad di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Kita nak tahu macam mana? Yelah, takkan nak biar dia keluar macam tu je. KL ni bahaya.
Dah tahu bahaya, kau pergi dah balik.
Tapi aku ada kau. Tak, maksud aku...
Dia memang betul ke ayah Syawal?
Walau macam mana sekalipun, dia mesti ikut ustaz balik kampung.
Kalau kau nak duduk lama kat sini, kau kena berbaik dengan aku. Sebab kunci kat sini aku yang pegang.
Bintang di Langit Syawal setiap Isnin hingga Khamis 10 malam di Samarinda TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Dalam dunia yang semakin mencabar, kepimpinan dan kesatuan serantau jadi tunjang kestabilan ASEAN.
Laut Cina Selatan ini, jika tidak dikendalikan dengan baik, dia akan menyebabkan malapetaka di rantau Asia Tenggara.
Kerajaan tegas memperkukuh hubungan diplomasi demi negara dan ASEAN.
Kita tak boleh terlalu lihat condong ke mana-mana. Trump ketua negara US, maka kita jemput dia lah.
Pendekatan lembut dan senyap Malaysia, bukti suara ASEAN didengari di peringkat global.
Bersama saya, Muhammad Hassan, secara eksklusif dalam podcast utama Buletin TV3.
Nightline continues. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, has confirmed that fugitive businessman Datuk Seri Muhammad Adlan Berhan has assets and properties abroad that have not yet been frozen by Malaysian authorities. The funds are likely supporting Adlan, the son-in-law of former Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, while he's on the run overseas. MACC Deputy Chief Commissioner of Operations, Datuk Seri Ahmad Kusairi Yahya, confirmed that while all of Adlan's Malaysian assets and accounts have been frozen, the same has not been done for his foreign properties. However, the exact value and location of those assets remain unverified. A New Straits Times report on Thursday revealed that the businessman, who has been on the run for more than 2 years, is believed to be living it up in the Middle East. The NST learnt that Adlan, who is wanted for alleged criminal breach of trust, trust, has been going in and out of a Middle Eastern country for overseas trips, including to Thailand for golf and visits to a shooting range. The 49-year-old left for New Zealand on May 17, 2023, not long after Muhyiddin was hit with several corruption charges. 3 individuals, including a bank officer, were charged at the Shah Alam Sessions Court on Friday with receiving bribes totaling nearly 450,000 ringgit. They allegedly accepted the payments as rewards for processing personal financing applications that exceeded customers' eligibility limits. Now, Muhammad Kamarul Zaman Zainuddin faces 30 counts of accepting bribes amounting to over 378,000 ringgit while serving as a marketing officer at a bank in Subang Jaya. Meanwhile, Muhammad Hafiz Farhad Muhammad Nur Izam was charged with 9 counts of receiving over 46,000 ringgit in bribes while working in Kota Damansara. Another accused, Muhammad Najmi Muaz Bukan, faces 4 charges of accepting more than 25,000 ringgit in bribes while based in Shah Alam. All 3, however, pleaded not guilty. The court allowed bail between 7,000 and 30,000 ringgit each, with case mentions set between December 9th and 17th. Over in Sabah, a man was killed while 2 others were injured after a 3-ton lorry skidded off the road at Jalan Sinaran, Kampung Sinaron Tengah early Friday. All 3 victims were thrown out of the vehicle in the incident, which occurred at about 6:55 a.m.
Lori 3 tan angkat, dia muat engine genset semua.
Suk Fire and Rescue Department personnel were alerted at 6:58 a.m. and a team of 7 firefighters were then dispatched to the scene after receiving an emergency call. Upon arrival, the lorry was found to have skidded off the road. The 30-year-old driver was pronounced dead at the scene, while 2 other men, aged 47 and 39, suffered injuries and were given first aid before being sent to the hospital, while the body of the deceased was handed over to police for further action. An investigation into the cause of the accident is underway. Hakim Danish makes impressive start in Moto3. This and more when Nightline returns.
Karnival Jom Heboh Pulau Pinang kembali lagi ke Batu Kawan dengan pelbagai kemeriahan. Temui selebriti studio tonton drama sangat dan maskot. Sertai pertandingan mewarna, Buletin Challenge, Food Fest, Zumba, larian santai 5km pertama kali di Jom Heboh dan berhibur bersama Jom Local Jam dan konsert Jom Heboh. Jangan lupa bawa keluarga dan rakan-rakan ke Karnival Jom Heboh Pulau Pinang 7 hingga 9 November ini di Stadium Negeri Pulau Pinang, Batu Kawan mulai 9 pagi. Info lanjut pada maklumat tertera. Jom, jom, jom!
Oktober ini, cemburu yang meragut kasih.
You yang kahwin dengan dia, lepas tu I yang patut rasa bersalah. Betul ke? Ha?
Cemburu yang menjarakkan hati.
Aku nakkan cucu.
Dan cemburu yang meragut kewarasan.
Abang habis duit untuk siapa lah, bang? Untuk skandal ya, bang?
Cemburu membara, jiwa merana di Cerekerama TV3 setiap Sabtu 10 malam dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Geng JJCM, kita ada misi baru yang paling padu.
Rasa sangat otentik.
Nadia Hasnan akan bawa korang pusing satu semenanjung cari kari paling sur.
Kuah kari yang dia campur ni memang sur.
Jom jalan-jalan cari makan musim terbaru dengan misi mencari kari.
Dah perfect lah. Memang puas hati.
Setiap Ahad 11.30 pagi di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Welcome back. Foreign news now. The Zionist regime's continued actions undermining the Gaza peace plan and pursuing an increasingly reckless agenda appear to be testing the patience of its closest ally, the United States. President Donald Trump is reportedly frustrated by the Israeli Knesset's move to approve a preliminary plan to annex the West Bank, stressing that such a plan will not proceed.
Israel's not going to do anything with the West Bank, okay? Don't worry about it. Is that your question? They're not going to do anything with the West Bank. Don't worry about it. Israel's doing very well. They're not going to do anything with it.
Trump stressed that he carries a responsibility to the Arab world and has pledged to safeguard the West Bank. He also warned that if the Zionist regime proceeds with its annexation plans, he may consider withdrawing full U.S. support for Israel. Meanwhile, in a separate statement, Vice President J.D. Vance said Trump was deeply disappointed by Israel's continued aggression, which has killed more than 40 Palestinians. He also hit out at the Knesset's decision, calling it a foolish political stunt. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization, WHO, on Thursday said there had been little improvement in the amount of aid going into Gaza since the ceasefire took hold and no observable reduction in hunger. Speaking during an online press briefing from the UN Health Agency's headquarters in Geneva, WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the situation remains catastrophic as the amount of aid entering is still far from sufficient. Now, he also warned that hunger remains unabated since the U.S. brokered ceasefire began on October 10th as food supplies remain inadequate. In the meantime, the U.S. continues to press Israel to uphold the agreement, with senior diplomat Marco Rubio the latest to visit Jerusalem. At least 4 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes on eastern and southern Lebanon, marking the latest breach of the ceasefire agreement signed last November. The country's health ministry said 2 people were killed in Thursday's attack that struck mountainous areas in the east, while 2 others died in a separate strike in Arab Salim, southern Lebanon. It was early reported that Israeli warplanes carried out intense airstrikes on the eastern mountain range of the Bekaa region near the Syrian border. The Zionist military later said the attacks targeted Hezbollah-linked sites across eastern and northern Lebanon, including a military camp and facility for producing precision missiles in the Bekaa Valley. Britain's ruling Labour Party suffered a major setback in Wales on Friday, losing a by-election in one of its traditional strongholds as the government struggles to revive the economy and ease fears about immigration. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour finished a distant third in the Caerphilly seat in the Welsh Parliament, behind Plaid Cymru and Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Plaid Cymru secured 47% of the vote, Reform 36, and Labour just 11, marking the party's first defeat in the area in a century. The by-election, held after the death of the Labour incumbent, comes ahead of full Welsh elections in May, a key test of Labour's waning influence. With national poll ratings sliding since Starmer took office last year, Labour faces a tough battle to retain support across Wales, London and Scotland next May.
We're telling ourselves that
vienen lodadas, pero
On to sports now and motor racing. Wildcard rider Hakim Danish Ramli pulled off a stunning feat when he qualified automatically for Q2 after recording the 11th fastest time in the Petronas Malaysia Grand Prix Moto3 practice session at the Sepang International Circuit on Friday. The 18-year-old, riding a KTM for the first time, showed composure and control throughout the 45-minute session, clocking 2 minutes, 11.820 seconds, just 0.668 seconds behind Red Bull KTM Ajos Jose Antonio Rueda, who topped the timesheets. Rueda's teammate Alvaro Carpe was second fastest, while Brian Uriarte, this season's Red Bull Rookies Cup champion and Hakim Danish's rival, finished third. Earlier, Hakim impressed in the opening practice, placing 8th and maintaining strong momentum heading into qualifying. Meanwhile, national riders Azura Anwar and Helmi Azman finished 29th and 30th respectively in the Moto2 practice session. Turning to badminton and the 2025 French Open. It was a disappointing day for Malaysia as both national mixed doubles pairs Chen Tangji To Yi-wei and Goh Soon Huat Siobhan Lai crashed out in the quarterfinals of the Super 750 tournament on Friday. World champions Tang Ji and Yi Wei struggled with injuries and fatigue, falling tamely to Hong Kong's Tang Chun-man Se Ying Sweat 9-21, 18-21 in just 37 minutes. Tang Ji revealed he could barely lift his right arm, while Yi Wei has been nursing an oblique injury since the China Masters last month. The defeat ended their streak of reaching at least the semi-finals in their last 4 tournaments and handed them their first loss in 3 meetings against Chun-man Ying Sweat. Meanwhile, independent duo Soon Huat and Siobhan also exited in the quarterfinals, losing 18-21, 16-21 to China's Feng Yanjie, Huang Dongping, who extended their head-to-head record to 3-0. The defeat marks the Malaysians' 4th straight quarterfinal exit this season. And that concludes Nightline this time around. Before we leave, let's take a look as over 200 galleries gather at the Grand Palais for Art Basel Paris amid market shifts and the recent Louvre theft. With that, I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for watching and have a great weekend.